one of my earliest ancestors to America was a Frenchman named Nicholas Martial. Martial was actually sent to Virginia on behalf of England to build fortifications for the new colony of Virginia. Over time, he obtained 1,300 acres of land on the York River near its mouth, and that became the site of Yorktown, and Nicholas became known as its founding father. Well, Nicholas had several daughters. One of those daughters was named Elizabeth. She married a man by the name of Colonel George Reedy, and together they would become the great-great-grandparents of President George Washington. Well, I'm descended through another daughter, Sarah, who married Captain William Fuller, who was a Puritan governor of Maryland. Later, during the Civil War, I had family that was on both sides of that conflict. I even had one of my ancestors disown his own daughter because she married a Yankee schoolteacher. Yes, you can believe that, disown his own daughter. I'm also descended from the Cherokee Indians. Family stories tell of some of our ancestors who were forced to march the Trail of Tears to Oklahoma, where my maternal grandmother was born. Going to my father's side, my great-grandparents came to our country through Ellis Island to become part of the Great Melting Pot. Now when they came, they didn't come seeking handouts. They came seeking the opportunities that freedom and hard work would provide them. When our country went to war this past century, my grandfather and great-uncles answered the call to service during World War II, and my father during the Vietnam War. As for myself, I grew up in Spring Hill, with David of course, and graduated from Greenbrier High School back in 1988. The following summer, I joined the Army Reserves, took an oath to defend the Constitution, and served our country as a combat engineer and a cargo specialist. In 1989, my father's job moved us to Jacksonville, Florida, and while I was there, I attended Florida Community College, earned a degree in electronics as a telecommunication engineering, and also an Associate of Arts degree. Following that, I worked several years as a computer technician before leaving that for an opportunity to teach at a Christian elementary school in the 3rd and 4th grade. At the same time, I had the opportunity to serve as president of the Northeast Florida Astronomical Society, served 2 terms there. I also was an adjunct college professor at Florida Community College, teaching astronomy for 6 years, and I had the opportunity to attend space shuttle launches down at the Kennedy Space Center as a subject matter expert, which that was pretty neat to see. Following that, in 2003, I started as an operations manager at one of the top 100 movie theaters in the country. By the time I left there in 2006 to return here to Arkansas, I was responsible for the hiring, training, and scheduling of more than 100 employees, mostly teenagers, so you can imagine what that was like, and also the flow of thousands of visitors on a daily basis. So the question, and now I work for Computer Works, as you can see by my shirt here, as a computer technician. So the question is who am I? First off, like my brother, I'm a Christian. I believe we're reconciled to God through the sacrifice of Christ. Secondly, before I'm a conservative, I'm a husband to my wife Jennifer, my first and only wife. In politics, you got to make that distinction, unfortunately, these days. And of course, I'm father to my newborn daughter Rebecca, our newborn daughter, excuse me. And of course, she's sitting there quietly listening to her daddy. Good. Thirdly, as I just mentioned, I'm a product of the American experiment. I am the 4th half-cousin, 7 generations removed from President George Washington. Yeah. Yes, so we actually have some heritage back in the foundations of this country. And that's kind of the thing that I want to talk about is we've got ancestors, my brother and I, and as most of you do, that built and defended the foundations of this country. Now, we look around and we see those foundations under attack. Well, there are hardworking Americans, such as myself, who play by the rules that are having their freedoms and hard-earned money taken away to pay for those who have been irresponsible with their lives, or for politicians who are ignoring the people they're supposed to represent. We see that on a regular basis, or who make promises that are completely outrageous just to get votes, or who are just outright corrupt. Unfortunately, we do have that in this day and age. Government, as my brother mentioned earlier, is important. It does have vital functions. However, government should not be expected to, nor can it provide the answer to everyone's problems. Only God can do that, and for us to attempt to do so is a fool's errand. Unfortunately, liberal Democrats continue to try to do that, and who pays for it? You and I do. My forefathers and your forefathers worked too hard and sacrificed too much to create this nation in order for us to throw it away on frivolous spending like we're doing, poor management, and far-fetched promises. John Adams said, "Public business, my son, must always be done by somebody. It will be done by somebody or other. If wise men decline it, others will not. If honest men refuse it, others will not." During the last election cycle, we didn't have any conservative choices in my district. We didn't have a conservative run for Senate, we didn't have a conservative for the House, and we didn't have a conservative for state representative. Well, this time around, we have had good conservative men stand up for U.S. Senate. We've got my brother standing up for U.S. Congress, and now I'm going to stand up as well and declare my candidacy for District 47 for the Arkansas State Representative. Now, if elected, one of the things I'm going to do, or some of the things I'm going to do, is first I'm going to continue to defend the Constitution. You may not be aware of this, but there were actually 2 different times this last legislative session that the Constitution came under attack from our state representatives. The first one, state representatives were trying to pass a bill that would say Arkansas's electoral votes would go to whoever won the national presidential election. I believe that's wrong. I believe Arkansas's electoral vote should go to the people who Arkansas voted for.
Yes.
If state Democrats want to change and do away with the Electoral College, they can, but it needs to be done the right way through a constitutional amendment, not by trying to undermine the Constitution. The other opportunity they had this last term was the Republicans put forth a bill to reaffirm the 10th Amendment to the Constitution. This is an amendment that provides and protects state sovereignty and state rights. Democrats shot that down, didn't allow it to pass. So 2 different times this last session, state Democrats shot down our Constitution. I think we need representatives who are going to support and defend our Constitution, the system that our government is based upon. The second situation that we're looking at is the situation of taxes. Those are always near and dear to everyone's heart. Right now the state is facing a budget shortfall. Well, because Arkansas has a law that says that we can't borrow money, which I think is a very good law, it would be good for our nation to also follow suit with that, our leadership has 2 different choices. They can either cut the budget or they can raise taxes. Unfortunately, last legislative session, what did they choose to do? They chose to raise taxes. Well, what I would like to do, if elected, is actually try to lower taxes. But how do you lower taxes when there's a budget shortfall? Well, you do it by having a more efficient government. Perfect case in point. How many of you enjoy every spring taking your vehicle down and having it assessed and having to pay a tax on that? Anybody in here enjoy doing that? Well, for me, when I go down there, my vehicles are so old that they tell me they're worth nothing, so I don't have to pay any tax on them. But yet, I look around and I see this bureaucracy sitting here that's costing you and I money. What I would like to propose, if elected, is to get rid of that system entirely. And when you go to pay your tax, when you go to get your tags renewed, simply tell them how many miles are on your vehicle, they look on the computer what it is, and you pay your tax at that time. By doing that, we completely eliminate that other bureaucracy, and then we take that savings and we split it between the taxpayers by a tax deduction, and the other half we send to the Department of Transportation so they can build and maintain our roads here in Arkansas, because I know they were having a problem with finances on that this last session. And lastly is the support for our families. I'm very pro-traditional marriage. I think the building blocks of our foundation are based upon the family. And any legislation that's put forward that will help to support families, such as the tax holiday for school supplies, the state Democrats also shot down last legislative session, I would be in support of that and actually expanding it from clothes to things like books and pencils and so forth. It's not a big help, but it is a little bit of a help. The other thing I would do is I would definitely oppose any legislation that would provide any special statuses to other unions besides traditional marriage. I would definitely vote against that. Now, in order for me to get elected, I'm going to need to ask 3 things from you, as well as our other candidates will need these 3 things. First off, we need your vote. Can't get elected without voting. It all comes down to voting, so make sure to vote. Secondly, encourage those that are like-minded to also vote. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have people vote for you, you're not going to win. So first thing we ask is that you do vote. Secondly, as my brother said, please get involved. Ways you can get involved, I know my brother and I and a lot of the other candidates have some pages on Facebook. You can get involved there. It's a great way to get in touch with us, see what's going on, make your voice heard. Definitely take opportunity. Hold a fundraiser for your favorite candidate. You don't have to be wealthy. Charge $10 a plate at your favorite restaurant. Have your favorite candidate come out and give a talk. Lastly, of course, the money side. Got to have your financial support.